thy grandfather's hammer, by the sons of Warvan, you shall be avenged.
Too big for his bed, nothing seems to fit.
What do you mean?
Flip the toggle twice?
No, don't do that. Just flip it again, now, one time, flip it.
Roger.
Huh?
Request vector, over. What?
Flight 209er clear for vector 324.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Yes, it is always funny.
Every time. I'm laughing right now. I say that all the time in the home.
Right.
Because it is just brilliance, I think. Because they say the names of these characters and it doesn't mean anything.
Right,
and it all leads into that. And okay, that's just brilliant. Hi, I'm Mark.
I'm Tom.
And we are the
Cinemaniacs.
So,
yes,
here we are once again.
to their chagrin.
To their shaboom.
True.
Nothing clever to say. We have movies to talk about. A whole lot of them.
Indeed.
When we get to the end of our list, join us and let's learn together whether we will or not. If I may.
You should.
I have a close personal connection to this
Do
film.
you really? I didn't
did.
know that. Okay.
I did. So first up is the sequel to a very successful musical based on the songs of ABBA that came out like 10 years ago, I'm told, quite a while ago. And most of the entire cast is back with more ABBA tunes, some of the same ABBA tunes, in a lovely Greek setting. And all I have to say is, Mamma Mia, here we go again.
Please turn it in at our snack bar or box office.
So,
I liked it.
okay, I did too.
I don't care whatever. Everybody
worried
is
going into
getting
it.
a little tight-pantsed about hating on this movie because it's an easy target. It's a
Right.
musical with happy music.
What do you
in it.
want from a Mamma Mia 2?
So I didn't care about seeing the original. I love ABBA. ABBA
Yep.
was the magic of ABBA. The K-Tel cassette was one of the cornerstones of the tapes in my parents' car growing up, and I've held that love since then. So I'm not a fan of other people singing the music that I love. I'm like, well,
Right.
that's why I know you love Across the Universe, but I've never seen it simply because I'm like, you know, if I want to hear Beatles songs, I kind of want to hear them singing.
The Beatles singing, yeah.
And that's how I felt about Mamma Mia. I'm like, I don't know that I want to hear Meryl Streep doing an ABBA song. But I saw it to review for the show when it hit video,
Okay.
and I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean,
Right.
the music is great, and the cast is strong, and the visuals are gorgeous. I mean, it's this beautiful Greek Isle. That's the whole idea behind this. The original film based on a stage play, based on the jukebox musical about ABBA songs. And the first film was Meryl Streep is on this Greek island. Her daughter is Amanda Seyfried, and the whole thing is she and her daughter, the two ladies I just spoke of, do not know which of three men are the father.
Right.
So it's all. I don't remember if the first movie was telling all these guys they had a daughter for the first time or what it was, but so now this movie takes place a decade or so later. Meryl Streep is no longer in the picture
Right.
because she's dead, and Amanda Seyfried is trying to turn this villa that Meryl Streep always wanted to turn into a hotel, and it's about the grand opening, and will everybody make it there in time? People have been poo-pooing this film because of a thin plot. What do you want
Right.
for a plot that's based on
Exactly.
ABBA songs?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. If you look at the classic Hollywood musicals, not that I'm comparing this, they weren't genius in terms of plot construction. It was a reason to get people to sing songs a lot. So this film basically bops between that very simple structure of, will everybody make it in time? Will we open it in time? We're going to put on a show. And going backwards and essentially telling the backstory of the first movie. So you see the young Meryl Streep, played by somebody else, graduating college, getting to this Greek Isle, meeting all these men and having her inflagrations, not a word, but it sounds good at the time, and all of that. So if you've never seen the original film, it might be slightly confusing when you first meet the three adult fathers as to what they're talking about. But over the course of this movie, you see all of that backstory. So the other thing I was wondering was, gee, you know, it was pretty much the greatest hits in that first movie.
Right, what are we going to get?
What's left? And when the movie opens with When I Kissed the Teacher, exactly, I'm like, ooh, is this the level? I mean, I know that song, but I'm like, ooh, is Nina Pretty Ballerina far behind? Is Happy Hawaii going to be in this one? And it's done in a production number that I didn't think was that spectacularly staged.
Right.
I was thinking, ooh, this may be a step down. But as the movie goes on, they do, according to people who've seen it and remember the original, they do reuse some of the music from the first one. And they do use some songs that I think are good. I'm a big fan of Angel Eyes. I got to see it acted out, and it was pretty funny. Again, almost the entire cast returns with a couple of minor additions. They're all very strong. People poo-poo Pierce Brosnan singing. That's one of the things I remember most about the original is the man is not a singer. But at the same time, so what? If your life suddenly turned into a musical, you might not have the voice of an angel, but you'd still be singing.
There you go.
So he sings a couple lines in this one. It's amusing because he's not a singer, but I don't think he's trying to be. I had a really good time with this. This film, I went to see Equalizer on Thursday opening night. This film was also opening. And I'll say it out loud because it's amused a couple of my friends. If I had gone, if on Thursday night you wanted to be a crawler at a donut party, that's where you wanted to go was Mamma Mia, because it was nothing but ladies in line for that film, and pretty much nothing but dudes going to see The Equalizer. Now, when I went to see Mamma Mia on matinee on Friday, there was a good mix of couples and things like that. I want to say this tends to skew for older females, but at the same time, all I saw were like 20-something females going into this on Thursday. So I think it's for people who like romance and musicals and lightness and happiness. You know, God forbid you get a movie with good music that makes people happy these days. I thought Mamma Mia 2 was fun.
But basically, exactly what you said. I went into this with some trepidation because I was worried about one of two things, or maybe one of three things, I'm not quite sure. Are they going to repeat the exact same songs that we all loved from the first one just so everybody could love it, and it's not going to be any different? Are you going to try to avoid that because, oh boy, we don't want it to be exactly like the first one, and we're going to get all these second-tier, second-rate songs from ABBA that nobody knows, and we didn't get quite that. I thought it was a decent mix, almost to the point where, and it was funny, I had this stupid association, although I think it was overused, the Star Wars theme, you know, Luke's Force theme. Anymore, they use it every time you turn around in the Star Wars movies. Beforehand, a couple of episodes ago, it was always great fun, and it gets you excited. And so when we start hearing some of those ABBA songs that we heard in the first one, I had that feeling. I said, okay, this was appropriately used. I kind of wonder why, although obviously it's obvious why Meryl Streep isn't in it, because as you say, no big giveaway that she's dead. You kind of wonder why could they not have worked it around so that she could have been. Maybe she was busy, maybe she didn't want to do it. But it was fun to have pretty much, as you say, everybody else back. It's a lovely landscape. I'm looking at all the water, and you know, as a diver, thinking, gee, I wish I was there. I'd do enough for the party. I'm going to go dive. I think you're right that it will help if you've seen the first one. I think you'll get some of the little connections. But ultimately, I think if you're a fan of the first one, I think you're going to really, really like this one. Be open-minded with it. And as you said, kind of, what do you expect from a sequel to Mamma Mia?
A couple of things I wanted to throw in just before we move on to the far more violent of the two films we're going to talk about today. For fans of ABBA, Benny and Bjorn, the male half of the quartet, are in this film in cameos. Bjorn is in the When I Kissed the Teacher at the beginning, and I was a little bit disappointed that the song wasn't aimed at him, because it would have been funny to get a close-up of him looking uncomfortable and going when she sings that song. And then Benny is a piano player in the French cafe when they do Waterloo, and there's one shot of our leads in him, and he looks in the camera and smiles. It was pretty sweet.
That's funny, yeah.
Also, as a fan, it's really cool to hear all the orchestration in this film, all of the underscore are orchestrated versions of ABBA songs.
So
I was listening more to the underscore. Yeah, it's really cool. And I sat through and here's the third thing. I sat through the end credits because I was enjoying hearing these rescored versions of those songs as instrumentals. And then there's a PS after the very end of the credits that is a very funny scene that made me laugh out loud.
Really?
Referring to an ABBA song, and it's semi extra scene, semi outtake.
I missed that. That's
if you haven't seen it, it is totally worth sitting there for.
Okay.
So speaking of violent retribution,
yes, as you got a whole bunch. Robert McCall is back. Denzel Washington in his guise, and he's going to create some justice for people who are having problems in Boston and actually throughout the world. In particular, for a good friend of his who meets an untimely death. He's got to find out why she was killed and who all the connections are, because not only are other people there, he is an equalizer too. So, It's all back, lots and lots of action. I love Denzel Washington. Again, I've said many times I'd probably pay $20 to just see him read his laundry list because he's so captivating. And he's really got kind of a genre going of his own with this. I think I'll let you recount Mr. McGuire's comment about some clever sequelization of these things. I was struck by how almost intelligent and meaningful many of the subplots were in this, and there's loads and loads of subplots. He ends up mentoring this young black kid who lives in his building, and obviously the issue is, and we spend the first third of the movie seeing him. He's like an Uber driver, and he goes around and he picks people up, and whoops, this guy is sending a girl who's completely wasted out of her mind, and obviously she's been abused, and so he comes back and rights some wrongs. And that's what the movie gives us, and that's kind of, I guess, what we want from it. I had two problems with this, and I say this again because I liked it so much, and I thought it was also such a good film, well done film. And I know the point is that Denzel is the man, and he can just do anything, but he walks through like hails of bullets, and he's just casually going around and killing everybody, and it was too much for me. I just didn't believe that it could be done. I think it was similar to my comment with Skyscraper, in that if we're looking at Die Hard or we're looking at The Towering Inferno, which Skyscraper was a compilation of the two of those, I believe that pretty much everything that went on in those other two movies could be done. Skyscraper, no. I had the same feeling with The Equalizer 2. In the first one, Denzel, he's got there's the great scene at the end where he's in the hardware store, and he's using all the clever stuff. That was such great fun. This one gets it's too unbelievable for me. And my other negative comment, and then I'll comment on one thing that I was really impressed with, was there's a scene where he gets into a big car chase and everything and wrecks his car. He just says, oh, well, I'll just blow my car up and burn it. Is he independently wealthy? I don't get it. And he's got this place, and it seemed to be his wife's. And that's one of the subplots, that his concern about losing his wife. But I guess he's got this house on the coast, on Martha's Vineyard, and I guess he lives in Boston. The money factor came into it a little bit too much for me. This thing builds to the end where, and I kept wondering why we kept hearing all of these comments on the radio and on television about the big storms coming. And for those who live in New England, we get them occasionally. But it was like, that's kind of odd that they build it up. And it all builds up, and he has to beat up and kill all these guys as this big, unbelievable storm. And I mean, I've seen, we've seen special effects stuff. I thought this looked really realistic, as if, did they wait until a storm hit to shoot some of this stuff? So I thought, for want of a better term, the effects on this storm area were so completely believable. I was really impressed with that. Overall, I loved The Equalizer 2. Very, very violent, as you can expect. But Washington is great, supporting roles are great, and I was struck by some wonderful subplots going on with it.
I'm a big fan of the first Equalizer. Never watched the TV show, but I knew the premise.
Yeah, neither did I.
Premise, basically, if you're late to the party, is a man who used to work for the CIA, who was a secret agent, shadowy past, whatever, who could kill people, retires and basically just helps people out. Now, I believe the original show, he would like put an ad in the paper or something, and I almost think the end of the first movie they did this too. If you need help and you have no one to call on, come find me. In this film opens and he's a Lyft driver, and he's righting wrongs as he sees them come on. So there aren't really people approaching him for assistance so much. And then his past comes back, so you get Melissa Lea, who's his agency contact. Something happens to her, and then he's trying to find out who did it, and people are after him and all that stuff. I would have been fine if this movie was just him as a Lyft driver who just would right wrongs as he comes across them.
Sure.
Sort of like Taxi Driver without the mental illness. But this film, okay, it's not as much action as the last one, to my memory. There's less action than I wanted when I walked into the movie, but over the course of the movie, I didn't care. It settles into this thing where you see him in his apartment building, he's mentoring this young man, and there were these nice quiet stretches where he's just being a decent guy and trying to show this kid how to not walk the wrong path, and I'm like, this could be the whole movie. I'm totally fine with this. If there's no more action, if it's just this, I'm fine. It was that good. The action is really good. To me, it didn't stretch unbelievability too much. I loved it, and his attitude as this character is much like Clint Eastwood as Dirty Harry or in the spaghetti westerns.
Right.
He walks into a dangerous situation knowing he's going to walk out, And I get giggly when I see that attitude in the hero, and even more so when the bad guys are so sure that he's not going to walk out, and you're like, oh boy, you guys, you should just lay down now. Just lay down. Lay on your hands. You're done. So very violent at times. Set in Boston, shot in Boston. That was kind of cool. And this was Antoine Fuqua, who did Replacement Killers and Training Day and the first Equalizer and many other things. I would really hope for a third Equalizer movie because I really like these. I don't know how good this one's going to do. I have a feeling that people may go into this and word of mouth might spread that it's not nonstop mindless action. Right. And that it might be slow for some people. Maybe not. It didn't seem slow to me. It was just less action than I expected it would be. My pal Tom did mention that they should have referred to this as the Sequelizer. And if they make a third one, call it the Threequalizer.
Well, and then they could make one about that took place before the original.
The Prequelizer?
Make it the prequel. Keep going.
You can keep going. I hope they do keep going.
You mentioned it was shot in Boston. Clearly it was. This is a stupid comment, but the beginning, the kind of teaser intro that they have is he's in Turkey trying to find a kid, a little girl who was taken by her father, and so he can return her to her mother. We see him we don't see him return the little girl, but the little girl comes back to her mother, and then we see the mother and the little girl later in a bookstore, and I'm very familiar with that bookstore, so it was fun to see all that going on. I shop there all the time, so it's like, holy cow, I got to go and see if Denzel Washington was there. So
they've got that book in?
That was fun, right?
So I would like, if you're prepared, for you to introduce the next film. Okay. Because I have not yet read the synopsis that is to my left.
Oh, well, fair enough. And I'd like to thank the Colonial Theater, who is our titular sponsor, and gets, again, if you're local here to Keene, lots of terrific good films. The one they've got today, this week, is showing through Thursday, if you're watching. So if you're watching this is Monday night. So through Thursday is called, well, I won't tell you what it's called because we always lead up to that. Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams play a pair. This is a story about a woman who was raised in a very strict Jewish Orthodox kind of a background, and she was ostracized by her community for her attraction to another woman. She's sent away, but she returns now to rekindle that relationship. And it's a film that analyzes the effects of society and religion and our views on women. And you want to make sure that you pay all the attention that you can to all of the canon of your religion, because otherwise you might be in trouble for your disobedience.
Ordinary things don't seem to appeal?
Blah, blah, blah.
Then try one of our frozen delicacies.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Talking about something very different. How are you?
You can't see it until after 10 on this.
Nope. Hi. So I did not see this film before. I have not had the chance.
Okay. Well, not to encourage you not to attend the Colonial, because I think that would be the good place to go. But this is also available on home video starting tomorrow. Again, this is Monday. So every now and then you get to check them out both. But this is an actor's film. This is a performance-driven film. McAdams, I always like. She's a wonderful actress. Both of them, you can. I'll let you. Well, you didn't say anything, but you can chime in with some fun Rachel jokes.
Some Rachel comments.
Exactly. Racially motivated. There, I stole one from you.
I was saying, if you chose to see this film because you liked one of those two actresses, it would be a racially motivated purchase.
See, so
this film deals with racial issues.
These are the things we talk about while you're watching the trailers, or if you're watching this online while you're not watching the trailers.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's about the two of them. The two of them are just terrific. They're two wonderful actresses. It's clearly a poignant, pointed also analysis of society, of religion's place in common society, religion's place in morals and mores of our time, and how these two women have to deal with them, and the people who people with whom they deal as well, their families, their employers, things like that. The two of them are terrific. If you like either the topic or the two of them, I think Disobedience is a wonderful film to see a couple of terrific performances. I expect to see probably nominations. I'd say nominations for both of them.
Having not seen it,
yes,
I will thank our friends at the Colonial Theater for sponsoring this fine program. and also mention that we are about to enter into that which is known as home video, available on home video, on the home video service or platform or device or format of your choice. First up is a film that seems like only yesterday we saw in the theater and tried to forget. Speaking of Dwayne Johnson fighting large problems, here we have The Rock up against a giant gorilla and perhaps other giant items in a film in which those items and or gorilla are on a rampage.
Headaches. Pain mounts up. Feel dull, depressed. Tension puts nerves on edge.
Really?
So, okay.
I love The Rock, but
People watch two schmoes on TV talking about movies and they throw around the term critics. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm a guy who likes movies and I happen to be
Yeah.
on TV talking about them. Because if I don't, my head will explode. This needs to get out in somebody's direction. Might as well be yours. And that we would be snobbish about this sort of stuff. The kind of movies I choose to watch often involve
Right.
giant monsters
Exactly.
busting stuff up. I just don't like it when I can't see what's going on. This movie I thought was dumb. And again, on paper, giant monsters trashing things, great. One of them uses a tank to take out a helicopter by flinging it at it. That was one of the moments I did enjoy in this film. But for me, it was just dumb for the most part. The humor was really dumb. A lot of the lines were like all the lines that were supposed to be winky and sassy and smart were
Right.
super lame and not funny. It was just bad, I thought. And a lot of the monster stuff I thought was, again, really poorly shot and edited, so it was poorly rendered and edited, so it was hard to see what was going on. So I really didn't care for Rampage at all. And honestly, I don't remember much about it other than that I thought it was junk, and I would rather watch beginning of the end with Peter Graves against giant grasshoppers than to watch this again.
Right. No, I agree. I like The Rock. He's done a lot of movies that I really do like. I know you haven't been really fond of him, but I've been very disappointed in his last few films. You know, I wasn't high on Skyscraper. I didn't like this because it was kind of stupid. Again, I'll fall back on no insult to the man. He seems like the most likable guy in the world in reality.
I just think he chooses not good movies
Right,
most of the time.
bad projects. And this isn't to say anything about, but I mean, he's a bruiser and he came from wrestling, and so I'm not figuring that he's an astrophysicist or anything like that. So to cast him as a paleontologist, I'm just kind of
A paleontologist who lifts.
Right, he's really buff. I just had the whole concept. You talk about. I'm just wondering the point. Aren't there other creatures that you could have made bigger? And this big ape and a big flying squirrel-like thing, bat and everything. The thing I enjoyed most, and this is a stupid comment, was, it's in Chicago. Cool, I remember that building.
Sometimes it's whatever you can hook your heart into.
I was just really disappointed in this. I went in hoping to like it. But yeah, you're right. I didn't think the effects were all that good. I thought a lot of the clearly throwaway lines were pretty lame, and unfortunately, Dwayne, this wasn't his strongest project.
Maybe best for kids, thinking about it now. Kids who are less critical than a grown-up might be.
It's not so violent that even little kids, again, it's in and we know that like Godzilla movies are coming up and things like that. It felt like just a step above relative to the violence level to that, but nothing horrible for it.
So did you not liking this in any way make you feel attractive?
That was kind of lame. I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
We'll try again. But Amy Schumer is back in another film. And those of you who are regulars to the show might probably know that I'm not crazy about her. I went to this with some real trepidation. I haven't liked a lot of her stuff lately, but was really kind of pleasantly surprised by a story where she plays a woman who has an accident, has a mishap, hits her head, and wakes up thinking she is the most beautiful, talented, can-do woman in the entire world. And not only is she amazingly capable, she'll also say, "I feel pretty."
You can reach it quickly, comfortably, and with utmost economy.
And we're back.
Talking about something else once again.
So yeah, again, I went to this thinking this is going to be one where we pay our dues. The films that you're not going to like. Just the fact that she's in it, just because of her, she's usually snarky and just kind of unpleasant. We've talked about movies in the past where, and if they're no insult intended, but for want of a better term, chick flicks, then the guys are always just these insipid idiots that nobody should like. And I've always had that feeling about her stuff. I was very pleasantly surprised at this. I thought she was really quite good. It clearly has a message to get across, and it's a message that we've heard many times, but it still is appropriate that, you know, we judge women by their looks, and who cares how smart they might be or how capable they might be. And ultimately, I mean, I thought, and I think this will transfer well to video. I thought I Feel Pretty was quite good.
I did not see it,
Okay.
but I did see the next film, and in the interest of brevity, I will just start talking about it. So, up next is the new film by Wes Anderson. He who generally makes live-action movies, but he's returned from the past success of Fantastic Mr. Fox. He comes back to the animated stop-motion world once again with a film set in slightly futuristic, far-flung, about as far as I can throw something that's really heavy, Japan, in which all canines have been moved out of the mainland. They've either been killed or moved off onto an island to live because of a prejudice or a disease or something I don't quite remember. It was a little while ago. Anyway, they all live on the Isle of Dogs.
They've left their fields and barns. They're marching from the farms because kids don't drink enough milk.
What a strange film. But Anderson does those.
Wes Anderson is known for being quirky and particular, and this is
The
certainly
Royal
that.
Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, two of my favorite films.
Rushmore, Moonrise Kingdom, Fantastic Mr. Fox, the Darjeeling Limited, many things. He's got his style.
Budapest.
Grand Budapest Hotel, which I like quite a bit.
It's a terrific film.
So I'm hot and cold with Wes Anderson. A lot of times his quirkiness and hipsterism just grates on me, so I was a little nervous going into this that it would be something I didn't like.
Right.
But I really like this a lot. Now, part of that might have been I saw this at the movies on a really big screen. There's so much tiny, delicate
What a
detail
strange
in this.
comment to say about an animated film, but I completely agree.
There was so much detail in the production design and the set design and every little thing, some little things to read and notice and really quirky, amusing things that, yes, everybody says my TV is big. Well, guess what? Your TV isn't as big as a movie theater screen. So maybe you'll see it in HD, some of these things, but I have a feeling a lot of that's going to be lost.
Yeah.
But the story and the performances for the voice cast are still there, and that's very, very strong. It's very funny. It's touching at times.
Yeah.
It's a little shocking at times. Like, there are moments where I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that character's dead now. So I thought this was really good. Will kids want to watch this? Probably, because it's talking dogs. Adults, I think, this is one where I think you can be an intelligent grown-up and like this for what it is. You can be a parent watching it with a kid and get different things out of it than the kid gets, and you can probably be a kid and like it too. I don't know if its gentility and oddness might not. See, I feel like a kid would want to watch this because it's such a unique look these days, the stop motion thing.
I think that's what would appeal to the kids. I don't think I don't think they're going to get, you know, depending on what age they are, but young kids aren't going to get obviously the whole thing.
Story themes.
But I think you're right that they might enjoy, hey, talking dogs.
Yeah, so I really like this a lot. I was very happy with it, and I would recommend it to almost anyone.
My favorite moments in these, and you get a lot of them, are when the dogs turn and talk to us, and they're so well characterized. Bryan Cranston voices over our main dog character, and he's a lot of fun. I keep confusing him when I'm listening to him, especially in the trailer. I think, oh, that's George Clooney, but it's Bryan Cranston, who is terrific, and he's getting a lot more work, fortunately. Not that he needs it, because he's done a lot of stuff. Lots of fun, but we often talk about the voices being so identifiable that it takes me out of the film, and I didn't have that reaction. I think his is the most well-known, but I lost it pretty quickly. I'm wondering why it was necessarily set in Japan. I didn't see the need for that. But maybe that, we talked earlier, well, I think even with Skyscraper, about how the cross-national, the international appeal of it. I was thinking maybe that was it. I'd be interested if on the special editions or anything, if he references that. Wasn't necessarily distracting for me, but I just thought it was because, you know, it's all about this Japanese kid and the Japanese society in many respects. But the dogs are great fun. What more can you want with it? The animation, as you say, is terrific. And so I went in, once again, being kind of trepidatious with Isle of Dogs and ended up liking it a lot.
I did not take the time to think up something to slide into your next review.
We'll move on to it then. And over here, hi. And we can talk about, speaking of sequelizing and equalizing and trequalizing, some kind of things, our friends up north are having some issues, and they're not quite exactly as happy as they might be with us here in America. As a border dispute breaks out between us and Canada, who are you going to call when there are all sorts of issues and you have to defend some of your provinces? Well, you're going to have to call, you could call lots of Mounties and everything like that, but you can call the Super Troopers too.
Protein you require from wieners made by Oscar Mayer.
Not often you're going to find a sequel that is funnier than the original. I liked the original. I wasn't crazy about it. I thought this was clearly one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time.
I loved it. I was a big fan of the original, which I caught up with on video. And I was just laughing from scene one until the end of the movie, nonstop. It was just funny and silly, and the Farva character kills me because everybody has known somebody like that guy in real life or in a work situation, and he nails it. It's not a lot of recycling of jokes from the first movie, which a lot of sequels tend to do. Same jokes and situations, it's different. If you're from this neck of the woods, all the references to Vermont and New Hampshire and Canada are pretty funny. But if you like the first Super Troopers, can't imagine you wouldn't like the second one. If you haven't seen the first one, I think you could probably get into you could click into this one pretty quickly, and it's just funny.
Yeah.
So
liked it quite a bit.
I have nothing more to say than that.
Okay. Well, we have some trouble. You might have trouble on the borders, but you're going to have even more trouble if a friend invites you to a wonderful little party because he wants to transfer a curse over to you. That could be a problem. Because bad things happen when you play this one game, and you can either play it or not, but it's going to come get you when you play Truth or Dare.
Old Milwaukee tastes as great as its name.
So we disagree a little bit on this. Went into this expecting very little.
And that's what I got.
And that's what you got. I thought when you have any kind of a film, and the point is, again, we put ourselves in the character's place, hopefully, if you get engaged in the film. And so with this, there are rules to this game. And if you break the rules or if you don't play by the rules, you're killed in some horrible fashion. And so I think anybody in the audience is going to say, oh, well, what if I did this? And for me and my younger son, he's 17 now, we both went to see it. We both agreed that most of our questions, what if I did this? Why don't they do this? Were answered. And so I hesitate to call this a smart horror movie, but I thought performances were okay. I don't recall it being terribly grisly. There's not like blood gushing out and heads being ripped off and stuff like that. It's really just kind of a more an atmospheric kind of a thing. But I thought ultimately, Truth or Dare, I thought it was okay. Not great, but okay.
I thought it was not very good at all.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Rare occasion we disagree. The whole thing of when somebody is possessed or something, they get this weird Snapchat filtered Joker smile that just looks silly every time. I'm like, this is not scary. It's taking me out of the movie because this is funny.
Right.
And then didn't care about any of the characters. See, that's a bomb just landed. It was called Truth or Dare. I didn't care about any of the characters. I didn't care what was happening to them. It just seemed silly and lame, and it felt like it wanted to be a Final Destination but wasn't.
Yeah,
I love the Final Destination,
like
so maybe I was resenting that I wasn't getting another Final Destination, but I was getting this instead.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, I didn't like Truth or Dare. Up next, a film from our friends at the MVD Rewind collection. Usually they put out old video store classics, movies you may be seeing on cable. This is one I hadn't heard of until I got this disc, and now you're going to hear of it. Nicole Kidman co-stars in a film about a man who does so love the windsurfing, trying to balance the windsurfing by night and the corporate office job by day by also being in love with a rock star. He is the Windrider.
That leaves you with a nice warm glow.
Hi, how are you? So, I had never heard of this film until the disc showed up, as I said earlier, and I really enjoyed this. I didn't know what for me, Australian movies, it's an Australian movie. They can go either way. They can be really low-key and kind of amateurish and not get into it, or they can be like almost Hollywood product. This is sort of a little bit more toward the Hollywood product.
Okay.
It's basically the story of this yuppie guy who wants to do a 360 on a windsurfing thing, and he does it, and Nicole Kidman witnesses it, so he's trying to find her so that she'll tell his friends he really did it, which is a very thin plot, but that's what
I
it
was
is.
going to say.
They sort of fall in love, so she's a rock star trying to cut a record, and he's trying to be this windsurfing guy, and it's a typical like romantic, I don't call it a comedy, but a light drama, let's say. It's some pretty funny at times. It's got some decent little action-y moments at times.
Okay.
It's a fun-in-the-sun beach movie. The music is good. I thought Nicole Kidman was really doing the singing. Apparently it wasn't her. This Blu-ray has tons of stuff. It's got original promos from when the movie came out of like a music video for her song. It's got apparently an extended bedroom scene. Okay, Nicole Kidman gets naked in this. Just so you know, if you really like Nicole Kidman, you always wondered, she gets naked in this. So there's an extended version of that for the prevs, and there's a bunch of extras.
We can comment on other things extending, but we won't necessarily do that until 10. So.
That would be crude. This, like with the MVD Rewind collection, it has a slipcase that looks like an old Media Home Entertainment video box cover with the fake stickers.
That's fun, okay.
It's got a mini poster tucked into it. There's an audio commentary with the directors who I started to listen to it, and they said, you know, this movie wasn't well received, and it's been a long time, so we're going to be pretty candid in talking about it. So I'm like, ooh, spill it. So I had a really good time with this. If you like 80s movies, you're a fan of American 80s movies, you've not seen this, I can almost guarantee, and it's certainly worth a shot because I thought it was fun. Cool. So now we're going to move on to Arrow. We're short on time, so we're not going to do an Arrow in Tom's lower region.
Oh, we're not? Okay. Good.
We have a film from the director of a film called Vigil that we reviewed a couple of weeks ago. This is the film that person is most known for. It takes place in medieval times, I believe, in Scotland. The Black Plague is devastating the world, and they figure that if they get this crucifix cast in copper and can put it on top of their church, it'll ward off the Black Plague from coming to their village. Well, what happens is that this little boy has visions, and he leads them down into a mine, and they are going to tunnel to get somewhere quickly, and they wind up in then modern-day Australia, circa 1988 or so. And this is a comedy drama about these guys men on a mission, trying to get their mission accomplished hundreds of years later than they think they're doing it, in a film entitled The Navigator.
Wonderful idea.
New hidden magic with conditioners. The first rich hairspray.
So I thought this was really good. This was much more accessible to me than Vigil.
Okay.
As you see in the trailer, the parts that take place in the past are gorgeously shot in this alien-looking landscape in black and white, and when they're in modern times, it's color. It is far less a comedy than I expected. I thought it's going to be fish out of water comedy. But the way this film is done, you take seriously the perception of these people that they're just in a strange place and they need to get this thing done to save their people. And it's not, there are a couple amusing moments about, how does technology work, but mostly it's not. You're just with these people trying to get this job done. It's surprisingly dramatic and touching at times with the little boy and his older brother who may or may not be going away and not coming back from a plague-ridden area. So I thought this was really good. It reminds me of a film called Les Visiteurs that I had heard of that came out around the same time, but that was played for comedy. The Arrow disc looks amazing. It has a bunch of sort of critical appreciations of the film and some vintage trailers and maybe behind the scenes, but it's not overly loaded. But I thought, we're short on time, sorry. I thought this was really good and it's certainly worth checking out. And there are subtitles available for the heavily Scottish enhanced versions at the opening, or if you can't understand Australian accents. So that is all we have to discuss this week. Next week is Mission Impossible 4,
something like that.
5, the new Mission Impossible. And perhaps, or a Teen Titans movie or not, depending on how things go. Until then, I'm Mark.
I'm Tom.
And we are
This is Cinemaniacs.